I never imagined that selling my own house would feel like trying to escape a hostage situation. And yet, there I was, a full-grown adult with a career, a kid, and a perfectly average suburban home, trapped in an endless tug-of-war with a woman named Karen, the self-appointed gatekeeper of our neighborhood's HOA. Let's rewind. After 5 long years in this pastel-painted, passive-aggressively landscaped hellhole of a subdivision, I finally decided it was time to move on. A job offer across the state had opened up, better schools for my kid, more space, and, most importantly, no more HOA newsletters that came with smiley-faced fines like, just a reminder to keep your grass at regulation height, smiling face with smiling eyes. I was done. I listed the house. Hired a great local agent. Scheduled photos and a few showings. Everything looked like it would move quickly, until Karen caught wind of it. Now, let me tell you about Karen. She's not just a neighbor. She's that neighbor. A retired school principal who now treats the HOA board like her personal government. She struts around the cul-de-sac like she's on a campaign trail. Clipboard in one hand. Lukewarm decaf in the other. Wearing that same tight-lipped smile like she's doing the Lord's work. The moment the "for sale" sign went up in my front yard, that smile disappeared faster than a contractor when the check bounces. Within 48 hours, there was a notice taped to my front door, not mailed, not handed to me, taped, like a ransom note. It said my mailbox color was out of compliance with HOA standards. Beige. The same beige it had been since I moved in. Fine. Whatever. I repainted it. Just to get it out of the way. The next week? A lawn violation. Too many dandelions. The week after that? An unauthorized exterior lighting fixture. It was a motion sensor floodlight I installed 3 years ago, same model the guy next door had. Of course, he didn't get a complaint. Each new violation delayed the sale. Because here's the kicker, to officially sell a home in our community, you need to pass an HOA inspection. And the board only meets once a month. Meaning every violation had to be resolved, rechecked, and then rescheduled. Coincidence? I think not. My realtor kept saying it was just bad timing. That is, until our first showing. Karen decided it was the perfect day to hold a community yard sale, directly in front of her house, which sits across from mine. Out came the plastic tables. A hodgepodge of cat figurines. A vintage boombox blasting 80s country music like it was Sonic Warfare. She even had a box labeled "free stuff," which I swear was filled with creepy dolls missing eyes. The potential buyers never made it past the foyer. Next weekend? Same story. One time it was a leaf blower that ran nonstop from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Another time her sprinkler system just happened to overshoot its range and soak my front walk. And the real cherry? Karen took it upon herself to chat with buyers. "Oh, it's a lovely house," she'd say with a saccharine smile. "Of course, there have been some concerns, mold issues, noise complaints, you know, but I'm sure they'll disclose all that. Eventually." Mold issues? What mold issues? There were none. But that didn't stop her from whispering fake red flags like she was hosting a haunted house tour. At that point, it was clear. This wasn't some nosy neighbor making conversation, it was a calculated campaign to sabotage my sale. She was treating my moving like a personal betrayal. Like I was abandoning the neighborhood in its time of need. What Karen didn't know is that I record everything. Thanks to a couple of Ring cameras and a well-placed porch cam, I had footage. All of it. The yard sale chaos. The fake mold whispers. Her yelling at my agent when I wasn't home. The accidental sprinkler attacks. It was like a greatest hits reel of suburban warfare. I brought the footage to the HOA board, thinking surely now something would be done. Wrong. They smiled politely. Told me Karen was a pillar of the community. Reminded me about the importance of neighborhood harmony. Oh, and mentioned that my backyard fence was 2 inches too tall. Better fix that before relisting. That's when I realized this wasn't negligence. It was protection. Karen didn't just influence the board, she was the board. And the rest of them were too timid, too clueless, or too complicit to call her out. So I went outside the system. First, I filed a formal complaint with the State Real Estate Commission. Yep, you can do that. If someone is actively interfering with a residential sale and they're not a licensed agent, that's a violation. Then, my agent and I started documenting everything. We noted every interruption, every confrontation, every distorted fact she fed to a potential buyer. We even changed showing times to when Karen's car wasn't in the driveway. Next, I hired a home inspector. Not for the buyer, for me. I wanted proof. A clean bill of health for the property. No mold, no issues. Just facts, on paper. During every showing, I left a copy of the report on the kitchen counter, printed in bright blue ink with a happy face drawn on top. Petty? Maybe. Effective? You bet. Suddenly, Karen's attitude changed. She started waving at buyers, giving me forced smiles, like we shared some unspoken understanding. But I knew better. I'd struck a nerve. That fake mold comment? It wasn't a slip-up, it was her silver bullet. And I'd just replaced it with a Nerf dart. Then came the final blow. Remember the footage? The Real Estate Commission reached out. They were opening an investigation. Turns out, sabotaging a home sale without a license can carry actual consequences. Fines. Legal action. In extreme cases, criminal charges. While I waited for that to unfold, a neighbor, let's call her Nancy, stopped by. She'd seen the drama and had her own Karen horror stories. But she also had something else. Karen's term on the HOA board had expired last year. There had been no election. No vote. No notice. Karen just stayed in power. Like a bad app that never updates. I combed through the bylaws. Turns out, any homeowner could request a special meeting with enough signatures. So that's what I did. One weekend. A dozen Ring doorbell chats. And 2 boxes of Krispy Kremes later, I had my signatures. The meeting was standing room only. I played the footage. Laid out the violations. Showed the expired board term. I even paused the video when Karen told one couple, it's a lovely place, but the last family had to move out suddenly because of moisture problems. There was no moisture. You could feel the energy shift. People who'd been too afraid to speak up were now whispering, nodding, clapping. Someone finally asked, why would she go to all this trouble just to stop him from leaving? And I said what everyone was thinking. Because Karen doesn't run this neighborhood, she just thinks she does. A vote was called. Karen was officially removed from the HOA board. It was over. Or so I thought. 2 days later, I received an anonymous complaint in my inbox. The subject? Unlicensed short-term rental activity. Apparently, I was now operating an illegal Airbnb. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. I don't rent. I don't sublet. I don't even let my cousins crash here. But someone, and we all know who, had filed a zoning report with the city. It didn't stick. But it delayed my closing by a week. Karen wasn't trying to win anymore. She was trying to waste my time. But then came her final, glorious mistake. Remember Nancy? She dropped one more bombshell. Karen had built an unpermitted patio on the back of her house. A fully enclosed structure. It extended 5 feet into Greenbelt HOA land. One call to code enforcement. 2 weeks later, a notice was duct taped to Karen's door. She had 30 days to tear down the addition or face fines and legal action. Meanwhile, my house? Sold. Full price offer. From a lovely couple who saw everything. I left them a folder labeled HOA Drama, open at your own risk. They appreciated the honesty. They moved in fully informed, and fully unbothered. The day I left, I looked over at Karen's place. She was in the backyard with a hammer, tearing down her illegal patio. No eye contact. No wave. Honestly? That was the most peace she'd given me in 5 years.